I heard rumor. I
No
heard
problem.
rumor that I was assigned something, and I was trying to speed through the recording to see what I was assigned, but I didn't get there.
Yeah, well, I'll go through it. No problem. We'll not a problem at all. You know, um, we're trying to inch towards like getting a little bit more attention on that CI dashboard. And I'm gonna take you through it today. So, all right, so I am recording. I think Gina's on. I think just Steph maybe, so she can watch the recording. So let me get started with this. My favorite one. Um, see what I got here. I'm gonna stop sharing again for a second because I think did Steph jump in? Nope. All right, I'm gonna share again. Here we go. So the homework, which we'll continue to develop, work on, um, is I like if we can get on to this. I see that Hunter did and Lee did already, and I think Gina did too. Basically, it's just getting on the site and then figuring out which one we want to adopt. And I think there's so many, that you might need a little bit of guidance, in terms of, and that's where the mentor mentee thing we set up was, because I know I had a chance to meet with Steph a couple of times, once on Zoom and once while I was there. And we're still zeroing in on I'm picking up a project to adopt, a person to adopt, I should say. But I think I see Hunter and Lee. These are ones that you guys just picked up. One with
Yep.
Jack. Yeah.
My
Okay.
Yeah,
first meeting is tomorrow.
Look at you, Army. And then Gina, I think you picked up Meg. Maybe that might have been a while ago, or maybe just did that one too.
No, I just did that one.
Nice, nice. All right, so no hurry. Matt, the rest of us. Again, I think I'm gonna be at in Oxford tomorrow, and I'll probably stop by and see Ryan. See if we can pick one off. But the idea is just getting more people onto this thing, because it doesn't really do any good if it's just our Tuesday at 3 o'clock people. The more the better, because you guys are picking up improvement ideas fast and furious, and you want to just build that coaching staff out. So nice job. The again, the resources, particularly for Matt's benefit, because I know he had a miss last week. They're all here too. You can grab the project, the form there. Some of these things, like the coaching checklist, it's kind of like taking all the PowerPoint slides you're going to watch and putting them on one page, so you can kind of keep just a reminder of some of the things that we like to do as coaches. But that the resources there are something that was developed by that Tuesday at 3 o'clock lean team. I'm very excited because I think between Rich Dorans, Kent, Kelly, I think we're seeing a lot of engagement and involvement, in terms of lean promotion, PTA. So I think we're in a good place. I really do. I feel very positive about the momentum that we're seeing with people, because everybody has a role in it, right? And again, I think it's perfect timing for this particular part of this class. And because we're talking about respect for people and humble inquiry, and I really don't have a ton of use for lean, of all things. Lean is the Americanized version of and what I think is the Toyota management system, the Toyota production system, where American lean, the emphasis is on the tools. And because in the Toyota production system, or really what it really is the Toyota management system, is the emphasis is in how do we develop people, continuously develop people, and and get us all to a better place, a greater place. Um, so I think the Toyota production system, yeah, includes the tools, but the emphasis is on really these two aspects. And you're going to see that there's a ton of stuff that goes into what respect for people is. And I think humble inquiry is a game changer, at least in my life, what I'll explain to you when we get there. So that was our homework. Got no hurry. We're gonna get it. Well, not a problem. So the essence and power of TPS, but really it's, again, think of it as the Toyota management system, because you really can't argue with Toyota's their results, their history, their success, their profitability. And I think it was a tough sell at one time. At least, when I started doing all this and I started studying Toyota and trying to share it with the people in my own company, some people just buy American, forget, I don't know why we're looking at Toyota. And then the other part of it was, we make floors. What the hell are we study? We don't make cars, Bill, just in case you didn't notice, right? But if you look at the 14 principles and the house, the pillar of lean, you'll see that it's applicable to any business, really, any process. I've used it in my wife's frozen yogurt shop. To pretty good success, before she sold it. She got tired of it a couple of years ago. But it's applicable in hospitals now. It's being used in hospitals now. It's being insurance companies. I think we're past the stigma that, I couldn't even say Toyota production system 20 years ago, because that would turn a lot of people right off. But basically, it's about a management commitment, right? That's what it takes. I always like to start with Kaizen first. For those of you guys that have been around, let's see if we can get some Kaizen going, some improvements going, because you got to do that anyway, right? Otherwise, they can't move the metrics at all. But in reality, the place you guys are at now, and the same thing happened at Brick Steel and other companies that I work in. Eventually, management starts paying attention and saying, "Hey, you know what? We're seeing some really good productivity, which means we're able to ship more with the same number of people. Let's continue to build on it, right?" But it really involves continuously investing in the only resource that PTA has that you can't go out and buy, right? And that's the people that show up every day and night, right? People can replicate your machines, they can replicate your bombs, they can replicate most anything. They can reverse engineer things, but as people continuously are invested in, they become indispensable, irreplaceable, not someone that you'd ever want to lose. The idea is to try to create a culture of continuous improvement. And it's been said that Taiichi Ohno, my hero, said that even if we make a modest profit, lean is almost impossible, or TPS is almost impossible. So the urgency is a piece of it. And I think the urgency basically is, in my own business, was a 70 people, could I double sales and double these people's salary, right? Because they lived in the north end of Hartford. They shared a car to get to work. They had to take taxis home sometimes. They had 2-3 jobs. One of them worked at a supermarket, delivered papers, the whole 9 yards. It really comes down to, if you come to PTA, can my quality of life just skyrocket off the charts, right? It's a culture of challenging the status quo and not being satisfied with the status quo. It's called a healthy disrespect for the current condition. Where can we adopt that? Where everybody kind of feels comfortable in challenging what got us to today. It may not get us to, when we double sales or add 30% more sales 2 years from now. Those same processes may be full of waste, right? They got us to today, but they may not get us to tomorrow. Taiichi Ohno always said, build leaders, then build cars. And a lot of the focus, particularly of this continuous improvement process, isn't exactly that, right? It's really not about the improvement. The improvement is the icing on the cake. It's really about continuously developing leaders. And then leaders are people that they're not clock punchers. They're not just waiting for the end of the week. They're people that are fully invested in every way in this beautiful thing called PTA, plastics. Keep in mind that when we look at the two pillars, waste reduction is not a pillar of lean. That's the Americanized version. A lot of the Toyota management system was very threatening to American corporations when it was first introduced. And I think I might have mentioned, that when Toyota kind of got to America during the oil embargo in the early mid 70s, they invited American companies to Toyota City to learn. And what they came back with were the tools. They didn't come back with, because the Toyota management system asks a lot of managers. Right? And I think it's a lot different situation in 2024 than it was even in 1990 in terms of companies understanding that there's no top-down management just doesn't work. It just doesn't. We need to respect people a lot more than that. And Wakamatsu and Kondo said the essence of the system is that each individual employee is given the opportunity to find problems in his own way of working, to solve them and make improvements. All right. That's the essence and power of it. And it comes down to these 4 P's. And my P4 lean strategy, this is where it comes from. First, why are we in business? Right. I know you guys, I've probably asked all of you guys this question in the past, but why is PTA in business? And, the knee-jerk reaction that I can predict and count on is always, well, make money, dumbbell. Because I asked that question in my own business. Well, make money. And that can't be why we're in business, right? What do we do that is benefits the world, it benefits society, it benefits our community? Why are we in what are we better at than anyone? Well, and you know what? It's pretty clear and evident why people would come to your door, because of your value proposition. And it's not, the goal is not to make money. Money is the scoreboard. And I think it's the same thing with our own individual tasks, our own individual jobs, in that if like I used to say to people in my company, if the reason you come to Duraflex is to make money, then I love you to death, but I want you to find joy in your life. I want you to find something that you are great at, and then the scoreboard turns on its own, right? You don't have to pay attention to it. If we do what we're supposed to be doing, we do it well, and everybody's fully engaged and loves it. And then, again, I understand, there's days where you're like, man, I'd rather be anywhere but here. But overall, why are we in business? Why do I go to work? Why do I show up? And that's such a key component. Now, keep in mind that these 4 P's, there's 14 principles that I'm going to touch on in a minute too, really quickly. And you guys have seen them, I think, but they all fall into one of these 4 categories. The second one is continuously develop your people and partners. And what Toyota means by that is that first word. It means continuously. I think back to when we used to do forklift training, or we do a little bit of training here and there. All right, what they don't mean we train and develop when we're slow or when we have time, or after the holidays, or they mean continuously. So so in order to do that, we have to set up a process that we can sustain it, build it, and sustain continuously developing people. And again, that dashboard is about continuously developing these beautiful people you have. That's all it is. And again, the improvements are about productivity, where we're going to take time out of wait, take away waiting, take away motion, take away transport, unnecessary transport, etc. But largely it's about developing our people. The check mark, the right process will produce the right result. And that's where we kind of have to abandon the idea that people are careless, or they're not smart, or they're lazy, or they're basically, these people are smart and people care, period. And that has to be our mindset in the PTA management system. I have to tattoo that on my forehead, because there's times where you're like, well, I told that person once, I told them 1,000 times. They just don't get it, or they just don't care. And, it comes back to something I said to my wife when she owned the frozen yogurt shop and she was working with teenagers mostly, is if the student hasn't learned the teacher hasn't taught. And it's painful as a manager in trying to coach people, because sometimes I just got to stay with it, right? People are smart and people care. People don't get out of their car in the morning and say, today's the day I'm going to screw over PTA. It just doesn't happen. And the last one is make problems visible and the root of your organizational learning. And that's a key piece of it, because every single business, I don't care who you are, what business you're in, there are problems. The winning teams are the ones that make it visible. And that's where the A3 board comes in, or in this case, the CI dashboard, where there they are. Now we can go at them, right? We can go at them. And we're going to not only go at them, but we're also going to teach others why we go. And that's the concept behind the Yoka 10, the closings, the spreading of the knowledge that's learned. Those are 4 Ps. And this is the house that I was bragging about. And just, you guys have seen this before, probably also. 2 pillars in English, they're respect for people and continuous improvement. And in Japanese, they are Jidoka, respect for people, and Kaizen, continuous improvement. A fun little fact is, you guys know that symbology on the right for Kaizen, the symbol on the left is a human being, a picture of a human being with 2 whips in their hand, with their back to you, thrashing their back with the whips. And the symbology on the right is a altar to slaughter sheep or ox. So what Kaizen really means is self-sacrifice for the good of everyone. That's what it means. And kind of going through this, we're going to touch on respect for people a little bit deeper. On the left side, Jidoka, don't trouble your customer. And in the PTA production system, that means anyone who asks me for something. My customer is the person I give my work to. It's also the person that writes a check at the end of the day after we ship them our value-added materials. We develop people, then build products. This is part of respect for people. We do not allow people to do wasteful work. And wasteful work, in Gemba walks and understanding, seeing waste is the biggest challenge, but it is disrespectful to allow people to do wasteful work that contains defects, overproduction, waiting, non-essential processing, unnecessary transport, high levels of inventory, unnecessary motion, and unused employee brain power. They had nothing to do with the design of the work. They were recruited to come and do, in some cases, wasteful work. Teams and individuals evolve their own practices, improvements. Some of the 14 principles are about teamwork, not group work. Teamwork means I'm working with people outside of my department on problems, versus group work, which means, the accountants are all together working on an accounting problem, all right, or the tool people are working on a tooling problem. But continuously evolving teams and individuals so they can evolve their own practices, improvements. Build partners with stable relationships, trust, and coaching in lean thinking. And that means outside of PTA, eventually, teaching your customers and your suppliers and working with people like IDEX, which we have, but others, and continuously develop our lean thinking. And on the continuous improvement side, go and see, which is the go to Gemba piece. Kaizen, spread knowledge, small, relentless. That's where the A3, that's where I picked that up, was like, we're not talking about big events, we're making huge chunks. Businesses, death by a million paper cuts. I think, if it's one big thing, you already figured it out. I would have already figured it out. I had a lot of smart people in my business too. This is where 5 whys and being able to see waste is, and working towards perfection and towards flow. Product development, long-term great engineers, going from manager to teacher, cross-functional teams, etc. And the 14 principles, there they are, all in one little box there. I think I might have taken a lot of you guys through the 14 principles. But those principles are basically they're applicable to the emergency room at Hartford Hospital, right? Anywhere, any kind of process and any kind of business, I should say. But there they are, kind of summarized. And it's again, I wish I could just take one of them out and say, oh, we got to do simple visual management. Well, guess what? We have to develop that, you know, to fit our own circumstances. Visual management in Colorado is going to be different than visual management in a hospital room for one of the patient care at Hartford, for example. So that's the house, but you always see respect for people and continuous improvement. And keep in mind, we're going to go a little bit deeper and talk about Jidoka and Kaizen. So Jidoka, I think what I'm going to do, guys, is send you these videos. This one is the American idea of what Jidoka is. And largely it's about, they call it automation with a human touch, where the focus is on the machine. So I'm going to send you a link to this one instead of wasting a minute 22 of your life. So it'll be 3 videos. I think I might show the second one. But I'm going to send you this one along. It's largely how the concept of Jidoka, which I'm going to go through next, kind of got Americanized to automation with a human touch, where machines stop by themselves and kind of really doesn't really get into what the essence of the term Jidoka is. I have trouble with there's Jidoka now. This is what we mean by it. So this is this handsome fella is Takeshi Toyota, and in 1924, Toyota Industries was probably the world's greatest loom manufacturer. They basically took threads and yarns and made fabric out of it. And one of the things that made Sakichi Toyota lose sleep was that whenever yarn would get caught in the looms of the day back in the early 1900s, it would be taking the loom apart. It would be distressing and disrespectful. And he did not think that a human being could spend 5 minutes of their life doing it. He found it very, very disrespectful and distressing. You know, it was hours on end in order to take it apart. So Jidoka, it's this automation with a human touch. They came up with the first loom that would, as soon as it got caught, that fabric, it would stop immediately. All right, it would stop immediately, and it would save people from having to take the whole thing apart and untangling things. And it happened more often than you want. And they became known for their self-stopping looms. And so this term Jidoka has gotten Americanized to mean, making the loom so it stops by itself. When in reality, it's basically about the concept that people do people work and machines do machine work. So any repetitive task that a machine can do, then a machine should do it. And people should be allowed to do meaningful work, where humans are best at problem solving and creativity and problem solving. Did I say that already? So people do people work, and this is where automation comes in. I mean, I walk into places, where there's a person parked at a sorting machine with tens of thousands of little parts coming by them on a belt, and they're tasked with selecting the ones with defects visually. Right? That is not respectful work. The machines nowadays, and again, the concept of and Gina knows better than anyone. All you guys do. You guys are really good at it in terms of automation and understanding where are opportunities for people to do respectful work. But that's the intent of Jidoka, and the mindset of Jidoka is it's disrespectful for people to do wasteful work or do machine work. I'm going to do a deeper dive into respect for people. Top left, don't trouble your customer. And again, anyone who consumes my work or my decisions. Relentlessly analyze and change so you stop troubling them. Don't force people to do wasteful work. Again, people have they have little say in in the design of their work. It's interesting if you guys look at the 200 projects that are on the on the board on the CI spreadsheet, smart sheet. There's so many of them are I have to continuously walk over to get cardboard, or I have or over to the trash can. That tells you, they don't really have a say maybe in how the work is designed. So basically we're saying, okay, how would you set it up? Don't give them defects, don't make them wait. Because again, the concept of waiting, you think about things in your life right now, and I'm gonna use football officiating as an example. When I'm on the football field, that the game starts at 1 o'clock and it ends at 4 o'clock, I lose time. I don't know what time of day it is at all. You're just so focused. And the same thing, they call it losing time. People are perfectly satisfied doing work that flows well. I saw this in the Cat 1 assembly, when we started to approach flow, where you see a lot of long faces in the beginning, and then as soon as you start to set up flow, people are dancing and there's music. It's like it's a whole different environment, because things that cause me to lose time are the 8 ways. I have to go and get something. I have to go walk for something. I get interrupt that ability to my mind to lose time. And that's where don't give them defects, don't make them wait. And then the last one, not the last one, but don't impose wishful thinking on people. So in other words, hey, if you just follow the work order or follow the work instruction, you'll be fine. Or just do it like we said. That's wishful thinking. So we don't want to impose wishful thinking on people, and we don't want to overload them. There's 3 types of waste: Mura, Muri, and Muda. Muda is the 8 waste. Muri is overburden, which means giving people more work or a machine more than it can handle. And Mura is unevenness, like all of a sudden we got nothing, then we got a lot, or the end of the month, or things like that. Develop people, then build products. Managers as teachers, mentoring people closely, taking them under your wing for years in engineering and problem solving. Okay. And I love the idea that people have the opportunity to do what Taichi Ono called an alternating career, which means, yeah, I may be working in molding, for most of my life, 95% of it, but I got 5 or 10% of my life where I can work on teams and doing improvement work. That's called the alternating career. It's like a part-time job that is generally pretty fun, because my theory is anytime people are together, whether it's I saw Twins Day in Oxford, I know Halloween's coming up, I think you guys know how to have fun. But even more, it's like when people are together, generally there's smiles. People are happy, Managers walk the talk. This is a key piece of respect for people, where they understand and act on the goal of limiting waste and continuous improvement. And they actually do it. They used to say, well, your actions speak so loudly that I cannot hear a word you say. Everybody has a role, right? Even Rich does, and I think he does it really, really well. In their own employees see this. Developing teams, 5 to 6 people. I didn't make up that 5 to 6. The 8-3 teams or the continuous improvement teams. It's no coincidence that they are between 3 and 5. You throw the coach on, now we're 6, because that's probably the right size for most problems in developing people. And again, I talked about teamwork already, but not versus group work. Working outside of the silos, because a lot of times our customers are forced to deal with our silos where they can't really get answers very easily. The more used to we are to developing teams, the less that group work starts to go away. Anytime I have to hand off from one group to another, it's cost my customer time. I just saw a terrific map that Meg did. I think it was Jenna did. One of them did. Who was it, Gina? On the NCR process, and you can see the handoffs in it. And anytime you hand off work, it's either going to be minutes, hours, days, sometimes even weeks. So the more I can get teams functioning well and people used to working on teams, and I see zero problem at PTA, zero in terms of teamwork. People are willing. I think really good team players, and that's not the case in most companies. And that's where the frustration comes, in that they can't make decisions. Building partners and teams and individuals evolve their own practices. So management challenges, which I love, which we're seeing, but workers learn problem solving, reflection skills, which means going back and saying, did it work? Do we need to do more improvements? And then they themselves decide how to improve. This is, I know it's there's a lot on this slide, but I think it does a nice job of just summarizing Jidoka and how we need to act. Next slide. All right, now we're going to jump on to humble inquiry a little bit. You guys have heard of humble inquiry, maybe in the Greenbelt class. I didn't get too deep into it. But here's the problem. This is the problem. How do I keep my job and how do I get ahead? Well, the number one way is to conform to the priorities of my boss, right? Even in some cases, when I see disaster at the end of it, it's almost like the concept. And I think I always use this analogy. My future daughter-in-law, she's an OR nurse, but we always, the king or the queen in surgery is the physician, right? The physician gets to park in the front. Everybody has to wait until the physician shows up. Whenever he shows up or she shows up, and then during surgery, people, it could be the hygiene nurse. This hygiene nurse might see that there's a sponge left in the cavity, or the surgeon is beginning to operate on the wrong knee. And you say, well, that doesn't happen very often, does it? If you want to Google that and check out the number of times errors during surgery, and a biggest issue then was nobody in that room would say to the physician, hey, knucklehead, that's the wrong knee or the wrong hip, or you left a sponge in, or where's that tool, or where's that gap, whatever. It's almost like the emperor with no clothes, where the emperor was walking through town naked, and all the townspeople didn't want to tell him that. And they told him how good his suit looked and how it matched his eyes and the whole 9 yards. So that's a problem. And the problem has resulted in, millions and millions of dollars in litigation in terms of medicine. The Challenger disaster came down to a technician that realized that one of the gaskets that was going to go onto the space shuttle was cracking prematurely, doing aging tests, but they had the launch already set up, a few months down the road, and they just said, hey, sit down, shut up. Basically, Katrina, same thing with the levees, and then obviously everybody knows about Chernobyl also. But that is a monstrosity of a problem. And I think there's so much opportunity that is lost by not truly listening. And this concept of humble inquiry is something that really started, and this guy, Edgar Sheen, if anybody wants this book, please let me know. I'll send it to you. But I think I cover most of the book right here on these few slides, largely. But largely it started in the medical community. But because inadvertently, we tell people what they think they should know as managers, and we shut them down, right? Humble inquiry is a way to generate new ideas, develop agility and flexibility. And we have to go from telling, which shuts people down, to asking, which draws people out. And it's a really simple task. It took me probably 1 or 2 years to master it. It's not going to take you guys that long because you're a hell of a lot smarter than I am. But what it means is anytime I ask a question, I always ask open-ended question. I don't ask yes/no questions. Yes/no questions are meant to confirm what I already think. They're meant to kind of trap the witness, like if you think about a courtroom. And the way I finally mastered it was to have a elastic band on my left wrist. And every time I caught myself asking a yes/no question, I put it on my right wrist, and then same thing. And I had sores on my wrist from swapping back and forth for the longest time. And that's unfortunately is when we're walking around doing gemba walks, think about the number of times we're asking yes, no questions. This is a skill. This is such an incredibly powerful skill. And Ed Sheen, he defines it as the fine art of drawing someone out, of asking questions to which you do not know the answer. You know, that humbling, they call it humble inquiry, because when I go out onto the floor, it doesn't matter if I am the vice president, the CEO, the global emperor, doesn't matter. Though that I have to understand that that person knows the work better than I do. And that's why I have to go with humility, my hat in hand, and I have to ask questions that are not yes, no. I have to figure out ways, because that by asking open-ended questions, people will open up. I probably, I don't know how many improvements I've been involved in, since I sold my company in the last 14 years. But people say, well, I don't know how you get these people to give you ideas, and it's large, it's this simple skill of not asking yes, no questions. Right. Very powerful. This video, there's another video here. The issue is, I think I'm going to play this one. If you've seen this before, because largely I can go into, out onto the shop floor, do a gemba walk. And I kind of think I might know the answers. This particular little quick exercise, all I'm going to ask you to do is in a very short, maybe 30 seconds or so, count the number of passes of the basketball. Okay. If you've seen it before. Oh, I got an ad. Hold on. Please hold. Is the video running okay, guys?
Yep.
Is it running okay?
Yes, it is. Yep.
Okay. You know what? I'm gonna hit that button, the share button again. Hold on one sec. Optimize for video clip, just for ha-has. All right, here we go.
Collective attention. Count how many times the players wearing white pass the basketball.
Just the white team.
How many passes did you count? The correct answer is 15 passes. But did you see the gorilla? This video is from...
Did everyone see the gorilla?
Yeah, I did.
Anybody not see it?
I didn't see it while I was counting.
Good. Me neither. I think half the people see it, half don't. I think that's how it works. But the point showing this video is as we do we're into other people's work, right? We're up onto the floor, we're talking to people. There's a concept called learning to see, and that's where value stream mapping comes in. And there's a concept called the Ono circle, where Taichi Ono would ask young engineers to stand in a circle that he drew on the concrete floor and observe for a full day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, and just watch the work. And that's kind of the understanding that we have to go into, is that when we go and walk by, we're only seeing a small piece of what's happening in that particular work area. And we have to rely on, because I guarantee you that all of these people passing the basketball saw the gorilla, right? Now it's a matter of, well, you tell me. Well, I did my gemba walks. I said, all right, there's this concept called management by walking around. So I would go out onto the floor every day, check the box. Hey, how about the Mets? Oh, look at the weather. Oh, the foliage is nice here. How's everything? Great. And then over time, just by asking open-ended questions, because people don't want to tell me that, that hell is freezing over, or things are about to crumble, or they're up against it, or someone just got hurt, or whatever. So a lot of it is, as I go to Gemba and I invest 10, 15, 20 minutes, I'm actually talking to people, asking open-ended questions. And like I said last week, I'll never go to Gemba without making sure that person knows, what they tell me, I'm going to write down. And two, I promise I will be back to you. I'm not going to, if they're not going to come back to me and say, hey, I told you this, I'm going to come back to them. And then, and only then will I start to get the truth. The people know the truth. It's just a matter of how do I communicate in a different way where they're perfectly willing to share it because they trust me that I'm going to do something. And this is another video that I'm going to send you the link for, because I think this one's 8 minutes, but it's largely the Lean Enterprise Institute, David Verbley, and he goes through a pretty good summary of what humble inquiry is. So I don't want to show that. It's 8 minutes, and it's going to take us past our 45 minutes. All right, so homework. Let's stay with what we had, last week. For those of you that maybe not have done it, no big deal. But going to the dashboard, with your mentor to help if you need it, because there's a lot of them on. Maybe, hopefully, I'm helping Steph. And then we'll go define, and then we want to go to measure next, which I think we're going to talk a little bit about. I think in the first class I talked about the A3 prep or the CI prep huddle, just with you and the leader and getting the forum started, the whole 9 yards. So let's continue with that. And we definitely want to see if our next week or two, we can move into the measure phase. Next week is going to be a pretty good review of all the things that you did. You spent 11 or 12 weeks with me, right? And just the tools that you might think are useful. I hope you enjoyed. This was my favorite part of Toyota Production System. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope it was fun, at least. And any questions, thoughts? My favorite people?
No?
All right. I'll send you the video, and I'll send you the video of this class plus the other two. Try to get your homework done. If you need any help, let us know.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Happy Monday, people.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Bill.
Bill.
Thank you.
Bye.